love
Very
that. It
cool.
makes it
Yeah.
so that you can kind of continue on with that therapy when you're not able to be there, and helps them do a
Yeah.
better job of that. And I'm
Yeah.
assuming with, like, for you too, with occupational therapy, Haley, it's probably similar to that too, where you're, involving teachers and helping kind of continue on the therapy as you go forward. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah. It's just a lot of sharing strategies. Like, we kind of figure out what's successful and what works, and then we share that with them, and they implement it more in the day-to-day stuff than, when we see the kids one-on-one.
Okay.
Very
And then
cool.
I guess
Very
something,
cool.
yeah, and something else I've been kind of wondering just personally, right? So a lot of times in schools we see, a large need for speech language pathologists, a pretty good sized need for occupational therapists, and then a fairly smaller need for physical therapists as far as the amount that they'll bring in on a district and things like that. Is your guys' caseload much larger because of that? Like, if, say, you're the only physical therapist that's maybe in the district, or there's only a couple of you, do you have a lot more students that would be on your caseload? Because it sounds like the services that you guys are both giving seems like pretty important, that there'd be a lot of people that would fall under that.
Actually, no, my caseload is fairly small. So I've actually worked in the school district I've only been part-time ever. And I have roughly 40 kids on my caseload, but we talk about the support description. I do a lot, probably almost half my caseload, a good third to half of my caseload is support description. So I just see them on a consultative basis. So as I was saying before, just because a kid has a wheelchair or walker doesn't necessarily mean that they need that direct interaction. They can be independent in their school, and I'm just there to support, make sure their walker is in shape, or if it needs any, they need any extra equipment or anything like that. So my caseload is typically smaller it's probably the same size as most of each individual, and we just don't see near as many kids for physical therapy as speech therapy. So speech therapists, we may have 200 kids in the school that need speech therapy, but I only have the 40 that need PT, just because the amount of kids who need physical therapy is much smaller than the kids who would potentially need speech therapy. And occupational probably falls in the middle.
Yeah, we're probably about in the middle. Last year I had a whopper of a caseload because I was the only one here. But now there's another one. We split. But we have about 102 or 3 in our district, and there's 2 of us. So it's probably similar to speech's caseload, but speech sees them probably more times per week than we do. So it's a little bit less.
Man.
Okay.
Busy.
That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I work 2 school systems, so.
I think the physical therapy aspect too, like the educational piece that you brought up, is so important. And I think that's something that was missing in my mind, right? Like you said, it's not just because they may be in a wheelchair and maybe could use the, physical therapy outside, but it's gotta have to do with their education and their ability to learn and do well in a classroom.
Right.
Okay.
Right, because you may have them, as long as they're in their wheelchair or they're in their supportive seating environment, they can participate in the classroom. So, really my need's not there. That's not to say, that they couldn't potentially get therapy in a medical setting where you could address more of the trunk weakness or the leg weakness and things, and specifically work on certain motor movements or muscle areas that you need to be more specific on. So some kids do get very little therapy at school, but get more outpatient. It's just the different mindset and how the therapy is directed, where school piece is the whole reason they're here at school is for education. It's not for therapy. We're here that's why we're considered related services. We just are here to support them to make sure that they can access and participate in that academic environment. But the whole reason they're in therapy is for education, or in school is for education, not therapy.
And sometimes that can be kind of hard to convey to the parents.
Yes. Some parents
I can
don't
imagine.
want to hear that. Well, parents sometimes see it as, they can get therapy at school. I don't have to spend my extra time and run them here after school or after work, and to spend this extra money. They can get it at school. So sometimes it's hard for parents to understand what our role is in the school system. So we've come up, there's actually our DPI, Department of Public Instruction, they have come up with some very nice handouts that explain what medical versus educational model looks like. And they've been helpful to parents. I've had some really tough IEP meetings and trying to explain to parents and so that they can understand exactly why I'm not serving their kid 4 times a week for therapy type of thing. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm really excited that you were able to kind of explain those differences, because I think I've definitely been in that similar mindset. Like, when I think of physical therapy, I assume it's like a whole lot of equipment, and there's just a lot of things, I think, going on. And I think that I've really always thought of it as like this very therapy heavy driven kind of thing. And so I'm really excited that you were kind of able to explain, like, it has to have an education piece. It's not what most people think of when they think of PT. So thank you. I appreciate that, just for my own visual of what that looks like.
And sometimes that's been hard for me because I wear 2 hats. I work outpatient and school system. Like, sometimes I have to remember, oh wait, you're like, put your right hat on, and then explain, back and forth. And for a long time, I have been the only physical therapist in our county serving both the early intervention, outpatient realm, as well as the school system. So it's hard to step back and forth between the 2 roles, and with my parents, and having them understand why I can't do one, but I can do the other type of thing. So it's a learning process.